Tour de France started in the rain in Holland. For nearly a week, the field was torn by headwinds and more rain. Yesterday, the Alps could barely be seen as the rains became torrential. 32 riders have given up already, almost 20% of the starters. This is a tough tour. And last night, Francis Moreau, Mauro Bettin and Sergei Uchikov were eliminated after finishing too far behind at Aix-les-Bains, where the floodwater coursed through the streets. And the rollout this morning in more poor weather as the 166 survivors leave Chambery en route for the Alpine giants, which for years have romanticised this unique challenge. The route to Les Arcs will test everyone. The 2,000 metres climb of the Col de la Madeleine, then follows the Cormet de Roseland, and the day ends at the 1,700 metre summit of Les Arcs. And as the riders head towards those climbs, the rain has again started to fall very heavily indeed. And the rumour on the street here is that the temperature on the mountains has now plummeted to 5 degrees Celsius and the rain there has turned to snow. Well, the Tour de France goes on whatever the weather, but one thing now is certain. Today we are going to see quite a reshuffle in the pack. Stefan Erlo will be challenged, possibly by the Italian climber Mariano Piccoli in second place. The other pretenders to Miguel Indurain's crown, Alex Zülle, Laurent Jalabert, Evgeny Berzin. Also Abraham Olano, he must ride well today. And Chris Boardman. Chris will know by tonight if he is to remain a challenger or not. Others too to note, men like Tony Rominger, Richard Virenque. They will need to climb to fresh heights. When the riders got on to the long climb of the Col de Madeleine, that was when the first leaders broke away. They built a leading group of some 35 riders. It included the yellow jersey, albeit briefly, of Stefan Erlo, but Chris Boardman was left behind by some 50 seconds. Even more sensational news was that Laurent Jalabert was dropped by the group, and he was halfway up the climb, a minute and 25 seconds back. Needless to say, Miguel Indurain was in the front group, so too Alex Zülle, Evgeny Berzin and Richard Virenque. When they got to the top, it was Richard Virenque who went over in first place. Second was Indurain, third was Alex Zülle. The yellow jersey of Stefan Erlo, he came over at a minute 34 back. Chris Boardman came over in a group of riders 3 minutes behind. And Laurent Jalabert, with 2 Once men around him, he went over the top, a massive 4 minutes 26 seconds behind. And the dangers of the descent in these atrocious conditions. A crash here. Valentino Foix, riding his very first Tour de France, has gone off and down that grass slope. Happily, he seems okay, and he's making his way safely back up to the road. He was in the lead group, actually, over the top. He's a little bit of chasing to do now. And now we're on the climb here of the Cormet de Roseland. And Miguel Indurain, and on his right shoulder, Alex Zülle. These are the survivors of their teams, because everybody else has fallen back now. About 18 riders in this very select group. And indeed, the rider in white there is the newcomer to the Tour de France, just behind Indurain, Peter Luttenberger, won the Tour of Switzerland. Ahead of these riders, we have Udo Boltz, who has set the pace all the way up the Cormet de Roseland today, and behind him, Laurent Dufaux. They're not very far in front of this group, but a long way behind this group now is Laurent Jalabert by about 4.5 minutes, and I'm sorry to say that Chris Boardman even further than that. Boardman, in fact, did get back after a chase of 60 kilometres, but then he fell back again.
In fact, only one team very well represented in this group, and that's the team of Tony Rominger. Mapei GB have got 3 riders. We're just looking at 2 of them here. The new Spanish champion, Fernandez Gines, and just in front of him, Abraham Olano. But earlier on, Miguel Indurain had 5 teammates in here. He's used them up, as he has done all over these last years in the Tour de France, very, very consistently. But now he's completely alone and has to do all the work himself.
The champion of Denmark, number 21 in that white cross, Bjarne Riis, he did attack, and then he was told to wait for the group by his team manager, and then after he came back into the group, Udo Boltz went out in front. First of all with the Australian Patrick Jonker and Alberto Elli, and then as the climb began in earnest, Boltz went on his own, and the other 2 came back to this group. Dufaux also attacked. He's somewhere between this group and Udo Boltz, and Gines here would like a word with his team car.
Another man having a hard time today as we go past the 1 kilometre banner is number 81, Johan Bruneel. He's been often on and off the back of this group all the way up this climb. He really has been suffering. The man that last year rode for the Once squad has got back into the group, but it's going to be a very hard climb up here to the finish in Les Arcs.
Indurain there sitting at the front. always setting out the rhythm. We've had one very strong attack by Alex Zülle, but it was Piotr Ugrimov and Indurain who reeled him back in almost immediately.
Basically, for the moment, all the main leaders for the overall standings in the Tour de France are here. Evgeny Berzin is still in this group. We haven't seen a lot of him, but he's sitting in there comfortably. Ugrimov is there. Alex Zülle, quite comfortable. Also, Tony Rominger. They haven't done a great deal. They've left a lot of the work up to Miguel Indurain. In fact, this looks like Rees who's going off the front now.
Well, he must have very quickly put on his racing cape. In fact, that's what he was signalling for, and now he's attacked at the same time. The yellow jersey, Stefan Erlo, is in trouble. I think he has cramped, but he has completely hit the wall. He tried so hard. He came back after the descent of the Col de la Madeleine, and now he's hung on a long way up this mountain. In the last kilometre, he has slipped off the back of this group.
He's had a hard time, definitely. He did a great job coming back into the Miguel Indurain group as we come up to the top there. Richard Virenque accelerates to come over the top and try and get maximum points again. He will be the king of the mountain tonight, most certainly.
And talking of the king of the mountains, in the very first kilometres this morning, the man who led in the king of the mountains, Leon van Bon, after yesterday's stage, he went and abandoned the race. He's one of a number of riders who've given up today, and now Stefan Erlo has tried to his absolute maximum, and this is a very sad sight indeed. This man, 110% for effort, but it hasn't been good enough today. And so as we return to the leader on the road of the Tour de France today, and with the race leader in tears, and I think about to abandon the race in severe pain with his right knee. A very, very sad sight indeed, because this man has given just about everything to defend that maillot jaune in the Tour de France today. The field are on the descent. Indurain, Alex Zülle and Tony Rominger, Evgeny Berzin are in the chase group. And as we see the maillot jaune push back into the race, we'll take a break.
As the King of the Mountain competition starts in earnest, we'll be back in a minute with a look at the last true climber to win the Tour, Lucien Van Impe 20 years ago. For some reason, the Low Countries seem to turn out great climbers. Belgium's Lucien Van Impe was one of the greatest. Between 1971 and 1983, he won the King of the Mountains title 6 times, a record he shares with Federico Bahamontes of Spain. But his greatest moment came in 1976, when he changed out of his polka dot outfit and slipped into something a bit more yellow. There's been a fair bit of slipping over the last 7 days in what's been one of the wettest opening weeks of the Tour de France for years. Of course, though, not all of it has been France's fault. Here's a look back at week 1 on, more often than not, off the road. Holland, land of indoor starts and outdoor toilets. Clever Dutch invention to save you having to lock your bike while you go. And as the rain came down for the 2nd year running, the tour organisers made sure to protect the people who matter most. They invited VIPs who've got a roof over their heads, a drink in their hands, and a side order of the world's best cyclists as part of a 200 guilder a head floor show. And it was a floor show for most of the rest of the week, as the race took to the roads of Holland, and true to national stereotype, got comprehensively clogged. In fact, the daily crashes threatened to turn the Dutch stages from a flat race into a steeplechase, and a strain on even the best bike handling skills. No gears, not much in the way of brakes. After a long 3 days, the race finally entered France, much to the consternation of the local bovine population, who, if not completely mad, certainly didn't look too pleased. But the opposite was true in Wascal, where the arrival of 190 pairs of shaved legs brought the town transvestite out in a show of solidarity. The Tour's own exhibitionist, Mario Cipollini, started the race in style and out of pocket, with a pair of illegal red shorts that got him fined. But as Italians tend to in big European competitions, he headed home at the end of the first week. The Czech Republic's Jan Svorada seemed to have been watching too much football as well, going down untouched on stage 4, and no German within 10 yards of him. The following day it was France against the USA, as Gilles Bouvard and Lance Armstrong squared off after a crash which claimed yet another victim, Gian Fagnini, forced to abandon with badly damaged hair. By the end of the week, the seasoned pros on the Tour were taking no chances.
Well, thanks, Gary. The professional bit I like, but not so much of the old. Here we are then on the climb of Les Arcs now, and as you see, Udo Bolt has just been caught, and shooting by him is Laurent Dufaux, inspired by the fact that he has gained enough time now, if he can maintain it to the top, to become the new leader of the Tour de France. This has been an amazing day. At the top of the climb of the Cormet de Roseland, Stéphane Herlot, who's reported to have stopped twice on the climb, retires in the leader's yellow jersey, and he was understandably in tears, and I think he becomes the 12th rider in the history of this race to give up when wearing the maillot jaune. Then on the descent, the amazing surprises continued. Alex Zülle off our cameras was reported to have fallen, and then this happened to Johan Bruneel. What looked like a terrible accident had he disappeared off the edge of a ravine. Well, in fact, he came back up it, got back on his bike, and is continuing to chase at the moment.
It's going to be a tough climb, I think, over the last few kilometres, because the gap started to come down now on Laurent Dufaux. It's 1 minute and 40 seconds as they came under the 10-kilometre banner, and you can see Indurain, as always, coming up to the front, always omnipresent, and looking down there at Alex Zülle. He is suffering a little bit, but it looks to me as if he hasn't come out of those two crashes with too much damage.
Well, this indication showing us Bo Hamburg is the other rider alone on the road, chasing up to Laurent Dufaux. He attacked soon after the climb began. This group more or less regrouping here. The world champion Abraham Olano is in it as well. You might catch occasionally that white jersey with the colours of the rainbow rings on it. He's the man entitled, the only man indeed in any current season, to wear that jersey of the current world champion. This is Laurent Dufaux of Switzerland, climbing to what would be the high spot of his career if he can take the maillot jaune by the end of this stage. Meanwhile, further down by the best part of a couple of minutes, Garmendia is keeping the pace up as best he can, with the riders who finished first and second in the Tour de France last year sitting right behind him, Indurain and Alex Zülle.
Not far behind them, you can see there on the right-hand side of the pitch in the light blue jersey, Tony Rominger, who's been very quiet today. He's been sitting back, keeping an eye on affairs, just watching what's going on, because let's not forget, tomorrow is the first big time trial of this year's Tour de France, and that's when those riders really have to go out and ride against each other.
And that's not France's famous express passenger train, the TGV, over the race. It is in fact the funicular, which runs right up to the top of Les Arcs from Bourg-Saint-Maurice.
This is Bruno Roussel at the front, the team manager of the Festina squad, giving a last few pieces of advice to Laurent Dufaux, letting him know what the time gap is at the back here, and letting him also realise that if he can get his first stage, his first win of this year, it would also entail probably taking the yellow jersey.
What a way to get your first win of the season. And Dufaux is looking anything but a man who's getting tired. He's flying up at there at the moment. This is Bo Hamburger coming back into the sights of Garmendia, so he's done his job well. That leaves just two riders out in front now, and I don't think it'll be too long before we see Bolts.
Well, Bolts has been away for a long time since that attack after the cut, and then was attack going to come here, in fact, from Luc Leblon, who's been quite active for all day, and he looked a little bit in difficulty over the top of the Côte de Roseland, but now he's in fact the man who's going clear.
Luc Leblon, who beat Indurain to the top of the climb of Hautecam a couple of years ago, just outside of Lourdes in the Pyrenees. We go down there as we start the last week of the Tour de France, so he'll be thinking of that climb then. Right now he's just thinking of getting up to the top of Les Arcs, the Tour de France finishing here for the very first time. Although just down the valley we have the ski stop of La Plagne, which has seen one or two great battles, not least that great defiance of Stephen Roche a few years ago.
Leblon really did open up the gap there. He's only had one win this year, but that was a very good one in the Dauphiné Libéré at the top of the Col de la Bastille, which is a very tough climb. Miguel Indurain won the race overall, but Leblon has proved that he's back. In fact, he's catching Bolts here, who's almost stopped and has got to try and just drag his body to the top of this climb now.
Well, Udo Bolt finished 9th in the Tour de France 2 years ago. He's an indifferent climber, but he's a great rider to stick to his guns. And he's being caught not too far from the summit, so he's not going to lose a lot of time unless he really has hit the wall. And there's the face of Laurent Dufaux. He is still tapping out the rhythm nicely here. Thankfully now, a lovely, warm, sunny afternoon. Can you believe that? So less than 2 minutes covering the bunch to the leader, and still Garmendia is setting the pace. Indurain second. There's Tony Rominger, attacked by Luttenberger. Luttenberger has gone, and somebody's trying to go with him. I think it is in fact Virenque who's trying to go with him, and it is. Virenque, the new leader in the King of the Mountains after his great day in the Alps today, has gone after Luttenberger. A rider he might have been marking, because Luttenberger has quite a reputation, even though this is his first Tour de France.
Well, certainly everybody knows this is the man that can climb. Just like Marco Pantani, they seem to pick up incredible climbers, the Carrera team, and Virenque must have been waiting for that. He does have to do this as a policeman in this situation, though, because his own man, Laurent Dufaux, is in the front. Look at the way he accelerated there, and Richard Virenque was in a good position. He wasn't boxed in. He knew that he could react to any attacks that came from any of the other climbers on this ascent. It's really man against man, everybody trying to get into their own rhythm, and Dufaux has been at the front of this race for quite a while now. He'll be starting to suffer, but he will think of the fact that if he can just hold on for 3 more kilometers, he can get a stage victory and possibly the yellow jersey.
But you're right, Paul. Look at the enormous gear that Leblon is pedaling. He's still on that big chainring, and he's just so much strength as he goes on the 3-kilometer banner.
In fact, a radio in Tour telling us now that Indurain has been dropped from that group behind. He sounds as if he tried to go with Jan Ullrich, and they went over and extended himself, and in fact he's going out of the back of the group, and he's been dropped by this group, which still contains Tony Rominger. Bjarne Riis is in there. In fact, looking back down, there is Miguel Indurain. We have never seen this in the Tour de France.
Never. We have never seen this. And indeed, in this day of the Tour de France, we have seen just about everything over 20 years of racing. Zuller, look, is also trying to go clear. Indurain dragging his heels for the first time since he won the Tour in 1991. Luc Leblon, who crashed yesterday, is second. Laurent Dufaux, a man we've never talked about in the Tour yet, looks likely to be the race leader tonight. Riders have crashed all over the Alps. Chris Boardman is many minutes behind. The yellow jersey has retired. This has been an incredible day of racing.
In fact, now Luc Leblon has caught Laurent Dufaux, and he's going ahead to lead the race. This race has been incredible this afternoon. And, you know, we said this morning that Indurain, he did not like the cold weather. He has this big problem with the cold getting into his muscles, because when he comes to the Tour de France, his body fat is so low, and the cold just goes right into those muscles.
Well, there is what is left of that little select chase group. As we're having a little trouble bringing you these pictures, remember, of course, that we use motorbikes who link up to helicopters. They've had very great difficulty today in finding their way around the Alps with the low cloud. Now, this is Alex Zuller, and behind him is Miguel Indurain. The first and second in last year's Tour de France have now both been dropped by that group who rode behind them for many, many kilometers. And Indurain losing ground. We've never seen this before.
Looking now on the road at Laurent Dufaux, the race is split up completely.
So Dufaux second on the road now. Leblon is first. Zuller has been passed and dropped by Bo Hamburger. And a drink required by Miguel Indurain.
Well, this is an illegal maneuver as well. You cannot have a drink on the climb of one of the mountains, and in fact, if Miguel Indurain does take this drink, he must be in a disastrous state, and this is going to cost him something like $200.
$200 and a few seconds time penalty, possibly, for taking an illegal drink inside the last 20 kilometers of the race. And so, as Luc Leblon passes under the 1 kilometer banner, Miguel Indurain and Alex Zuller have been dropped by the rest of the group. And this is Indurain here in desperate trouble, because he's now been dropped off the wheel of Alex Zuller. Luc Leblon is going to savour this. This has been an outstanding performance. He crashed yesterday. He's lost time ever since his tour began with crashes. Now he gets his own back. He salutes the crowd. It won't be a maillot jaune for him, but he's won the stage here at Les Arcs. So Luc Leblon has won the stage indeed that has seen Miguel Indurain lose minutes before the finish. And that is absolutely amazing. Luc Leblon salutes the crowd. He gets the stage victory. Last year he lost the whole year because his team disbanded literally days before the Tour de France began. He was down and literally out. Now he's back, and he's back as a winner in the Tour de France. And Laurent Dufaux, for a long way today, was riding into the yellow jersey, but not now, because you can see the wheels of the riders trying to pull him back. They're trying to take off him even second place, but he's found the legs to try and hang on in the sprint and grab second place. He deserves it. Laurent Dufaux, and it looks as though Rominger's going to come at him, another Swiss rider. But I think Dufaux is going to get swept away by a fabulously finishing Rominger. Tony Rominger will get second place. He's taken inspiration by the fact that Indurain has been dropped from that group. Rominger, who's concentrated on the Tour de France, will feel he is now the man to win this Tour. Tony Rominger comes to the line. He will get second place, and it might well be a yellow jersey will await him as well. The time will tell us that shortly. Rominger gets second, Lutemberger gets third, Verenk fourth, Dufaux fifth, and now Bjarne Riis comes in with Escartine, Berzin at the back of that little group. And this is the arrival of Alex Zula as a teammate. Garmendia brings him home. Zula crashed twice today, also in desperate trouble. Look at that time gap. Zula losing 3 minutes and 27, probably 3.5 minutes, 3:29. Zula loses today after 2 crashes, but it wasn't to Miguel Indurain he lost time. It's to men like Tony Rominger. And now Miguel Indurain is going to be almost 4 minutes. In fact, he's going to be more than 4 minutes behind Luc Leblon. And this is unbelievable. He's lost all of this time in the last 3 kilometers or so of the final mountain of the day. Indurain comes up to the line. His day is over, but is his Tour de France? Well, only time will tell us that. But look at the time gap he's got to make up now as we continue through the Alps tomorrow. 4 minutes and 19 seconds down today. Miguel Indurain, I can't believe it. And here's the confirmation of the stage result. The French continuing their great Tour de France. Luc Leblon, the stage winner. Tony Rominger coming in second place. Lutemberger taking third, then Richard Virenque, the new king of the mountains, he finished fourth. Of the big names, Bjarne Riis came home in 7th place, and the Russian Evgeny Berzin, he was 11th. But now look at this. Alex Zula, his shorts ripped and his legs bleeding, lost 3 minutes and 29 seconds. The unthinkable happened to Miguel Indurain. The champion lost 4 minutes and 19 seconds. Laurent Jalabert arrived with a time loss of 12 minutes 55 seconds. And Chris Boardman, who also had a nightmare day as he conceded 28 minutes and 55 seconds. And as Chris crossed the line, Gary Imlach met him.
Chris, it was obviously a hard day for a lot of top riders. Was it the weather or just the difficulty of the stage?
It was always going to be a hard stage. And there's always some surprises with good riders going forward and other good riders going backwards. As far as I'm concerned, the first climb I was in the second group, which I was comfortable with, as I was expecting nothing more than that. And that was fine. We came back on the valley roads, and then I just completely blew for no apparent reason. I've been eating plenty, weight's been stable. I just completely blew. And you can see it in pulse, 150 maximum I was riding at instead of 170 or 180. You know, it's not finished. I said I'm going to Paris, and it's going to take more than today to stop me. It was an incredibly hard day. I had so many friends on the route today, especially the last climb. And when you're going well, there's nothing better than having friends there. It makes it a real euphoric experience. When you're going bad, there's nothing worse.
Did you recover towards the end of the stage? Because when you came in, you seemed fine.
That's because we didn't do the last climb flat out. We rode it real steady the last climb, because it's a bit of a cliche. It's a race of 3 weeks, and today's one day. So if I was finished today, as I say, I lose half an hour, lose 35 minutes. It's neither here nor there.
And no thoughts of your future in the Tour?
Well, I'll have a good look at the classement tonight. Have a good think about tomorrow. I'll speak with the boss. I'm really, really, really disappointed. I can't think of a worse day on a bike than I've had today. But I'll just have to get over it.
And we'll find out tomorrow if Chris can recover overnight. But for the Frenchman Luc Leblon, he was on the stand receiving the winner's prize, while Max Chambery was finishing more than 37 minutes back. But he was in the main field, and he will certainly be in the race again tomorrow. Well, we said the pack would reshuffle, but we never anticipated this. The new leader of the race is Evgeny Berzin from Russia. In the same time is the world champion Abraham Olano, and Tony Rominger is at 7 seconds. New names in the frame: Bjarne Riis, third last year, and Jan Ullrich, a first-timer in the Tour. plummeting to unfamiliar depths, Miguel Indurain, Laurent Jalabert and Chris Boardman. So tonight, Evgeny Berzin becomes the first ever Russian cyclist to lead the Tour de France. Tomorrow, he'll defend that lead in the time trial. And on this day of high drama, I'm delighted to tell you that Johan Brunel, who crashed midway through the race into a ravine, well, he got up and he finished only 7 minutes behind the day's winner, and that was quite a performance. A final reminder of our competition telephone number, your last chance to try and pick the winner of tomorrow's time trial. The lines remain open till 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. The number is 0891 11 44 00. Well, it's happened. Since 1991, Miguel Indurain has personified perfection. Today, he appeared quite human. He cracked. What he's done is give us a very open Tour de France now. Tomorrow, our programme will come at 7 o'clock. It will be the individual mountain time trial. That will be something special. See you then.